All right, now we turn our focus to Nigeria's beer industry, a sector that's seen both strong growth and significant challenges in recent years. On one hand, breweries are navigating rising input costs, energy price pressures, and high financing costs. On the other, they're exploring new ways to grow, from expanding production capacity to meeting stock market free float requirements. And just a snapshot there of Nigeria's beer industry. We see the market value last tracked at about $7 billion annually. And for Nigeria, that's one of Africa's largest beer markets, dominated by three large brewers, growing craft and regional beer segments there. So it's quite a big one. Let's, to help us unpack this now, we have David Butler as the Managing Director, enJOYcorp, is joining me via Zoom today. Great to have you on the show, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so before we get into the industry, I'd like to get your thoughts. Definitely, it's been quite an interesting start to the month of March. From the first week, the war in Iran, and definitely with energy prices rising so much globally and already trickling down into major industries. You know, seeing all of that play out, how much of a headache was that for you? Think, you know, seeing energy prices, you know, rise so much?
I think the reality is we're getting used to managing the turbulent times, right? Whether it's the war in Ukraine, or whether it's the devaluation of the currencies, or whether it is now what's happening in Iran. I think that's our job as management, right? To make sure that we adapt on an ongoing basis to these challenges, make sure that our other cost savings and our other efficiencies are coming in line, so that we can actually navigate the things that are outside of our control.
Right, definitely. Always ready to brace for, you know, some of the uncertainties there. But there's a lot of talk these days about available tradable units of stocks on the NGX. And, you know, definitely, you recently announced meeting the Nigerian Exchange free float requirement. I'm wondering, how hard is it to meet this, you know, these requirements? And, you know, what does it mean, you know, for you?
Well, look, I mean, meeting the Nigerian Stock Exchange free float requirement, you know, is a major governance milestone for Champion Breweries. You know, our free float position now sits at around about 25.7%, comfortably within the NGX minimum requirements of 20. And following that's following the successful public offer and the rights issue. You know, this milestone comes at a time when the company is also delivering strong financial performances. In our latest audits, financial audits released, we grew from, we increased to 20.89 billion in 2024 to 29.8 billion in 2025, you know, representing a 42% growth. Whilst profit after tax grew from 816 million to 1.79 billion, an increase of over 119% year on year. Together, both of these, you know, strengthened the governance framework, improved the improved financial performance, and our commitment to our core investors positioned Champion Breweries for sustained growth and long-term value.
So, you know, definitely, I know cost of capital, that seems to be it's been a major issue. Most of 2025, operating in Nigeria was a high interest rate environment. How are companies like you navigating, you know, high cost of capital? Definitely, we know most of the private companies have to, you know, head over to the CP part there, you know, borrow money from individuals. How's that going?
The capital raise was a critical positioning for Champion for its next phase of growth. You know, it strengthened our balance sheet, broadened our shareholder base, and enabled us to meet the NGX free float compliance. And more importantly, it created the financial flexibility needed to pursue our strategic opportunities. One of those opportunities that we pursued was the Bullet brand acquisition. You know, where Champion invested around about 9.7 billion naira to acquire and integrate the brand portfolio into the group, expanding into high growth, ready to drink categories, that are already established in 14 African markets.
All right, so, definitely looking at 2026, we did see the Monetary Policy Committee, they cut interest rates, but, according to analysts and experts, it's still a high interest rate environment. In your view, what are you seeing for, raising capital this year? Do you think it's going to get easier?
Raising capital is all about your preparation, right? And there's definitely people with money to invest. I think you have to make sure that your business is one, ready for the investment, and make sure that you've got a good business case. And when you have a good business case and the market is ready, which the Nigerian market is ready at the moment, it's a lot easier to raise capital. It's still a long process, and it's still a process that requires us to go through the right channels of governance. But yeah, I think that it's about preparation, number one. Number two, knowing the right process to follow, and then being persistent and making sure that you get it done, and talk to the market the whole time about what's going on in the industry.
Right, and you did mention the acquisition of the Bullet brand, and I'm sure investors will be curious at this point. It seems that ready-to-drink beverage segment and energy drink segment, that seems to be growing a lot. What do you think is the attractiveness there?
I mean, the Bullet acquisition for us significantly expands both the scale and geographic reach of Champion Breweries, right? The brand's already present. Our Champion Brewery brand's already present in Nigeria, and the Bullet brand is already present in 14 African countries, with other expansion opportunities into other parts of the world. Bullet for us acts as a catalyst for Pan-African expansion. It achieved, what 5 years of traditional organic growth would have achieved in one fell swoop. Strategically, it allows Champion to diversify beyond traditional brewing into the fast-growing ready-to-drink energy drink categories, positioning the company as an emerging Pan-African beverage platform.
All right, let's look at, production in Nigeria so far. How would you describe doing business right now in Nigeria, especially when it comes to producing?
Yeah, look, it's been a lot easier, in the last year with more stability around the naira. So I've always said that knowing what to expect versus guessing is always a lot better, right? So yes, we've had a lot more stability, and we've definitely seen some of the prices starting to come down off the major trajectories that they were on. Obviously, this recent change is something that we've become accustomed to, right? So, as management, and a board, we have to manage the ups and downs of external factors. I've said before, we don't create the policies, and we don't do the actions that affect our currencies, but we have to fall within the gambits of making sure that we adapt and that we're able to overcome, what the market throws at us.
And definitely doing business in a country, as a company, you have expectations for revenue, profits, and all of that, and hopefully a reduction in cost of sales. Do you think, going forward, this market can actually meet those expectations?
Look, we're very bullish about the Nigerian market. We believe that we've got a huge runway for Champion, and now with the Bullet acquisition, also to start doing production locally, right? We want to do as much of our own products in country as possible, and then become a major exporter for Nigeria. So we're very bullish at the moment. We believe in our brand. We believe that we have a strong consumer liking, and we believe that the acquisition of Bullet will put us into a position that allows us to strengthen our route to market and strengthen our relationships with our distributors. So we're very bullish about both the Champion and the Bullet category, and also these two put together also allow us to open up our thought process around entering other beverages in the near future.
Right, and definitely we're hoping for macro stability, in the country, as the Naira stayed stable most of 2025. Coming into 2026, there's also stability. Only this first few weeks of March, you've seen a little weakness, getting to the 1.4 level back again. But, generally, what do you think consumers can expect from your industry? At this point, there's still that cost of living crisis, affordability issues. Are we seeing, prices, staying stable, for consumers? Will they get a break this year?
Look, I think there's two parts to that, right? I think there's the pieces that we're doing internally as a responsible company. We have an obligation to the consumer to make sure that we're fighting hard to keep our input costs down and that our factories and manufacturing facilities are running efficiently. On the other hand, is there are the uncontrollables, things that we don't really have major influence over, which is, government policies and international occurrences that affect sort of the cost of oil, the cost of the strength of the dollar, or the weakness of the dollar, which then has an impact on the naira. But yeah, I think what we've done over the last sort of 18 months is position Champion to be a lot more efficient, and both from a procurement point of view and also from a manufacturing point of view, so that we can start to pass those cost savings on to our product and keep the cost of inflation to the consumer down.
Definitely. What are you seeing for the industry, going forward? Definitely, I'm trying to imagine, was it dirty December really that dirty for, your industry as everyone expected? And what are you seeing for the upcoming, holidays this year?
Yeah, look, dirty December is always a good period in the FMCG industry. So yes, November, December are predominantly are very strong trading months of the year, and we were well prepared for it in 2025. It was a good season for us, and we managed to get good production out of our facility, and we managed to get some good penetration into the market, and also extended a lot of marketing activities through the Champion business. So yeah, Bullet. It's a pity we didn't have the Bullet transaction on the cards for over the December period as well, but it is what it is. I think for the rest of the year we're going to continue to focus on building our brands, focused on marketing, focused on making sure that we're relevant to the consumer and becoming relevant to all the different categories of consumers, right? The Nigerian market, as with the rest of the world, consumers are changing all the time, and it's our job to make sure that we're innovating enough to make sure that we're providing the right products in the right packaging sizes at the right price, so that we are fulfilling those consumer needs. The consumer votes with their wallet, and that's where we need to play. We need to make sure we're innovating. We need to make sure we're relevant. And we need to make sure we're priced competitively with the right type of branding and marketing behind our products.
Right. And talking about voting with their wallets, how would you gauge this last year? Do you think Nigerians had a lot to drink? Did they drink a lot last year?
Having a lot to drink. I think that Nigerians enjoy themselves just like everybody else, right? I think during the last year we obviously did see there were some volume challenges, right? But based on what you said earlier around consumer spending being under pressure, and that's why I keep coming back to this point, of being innovative, making sure you have the right product at the right price with the right branding and the right and in the right packaging formats to cater for both male and female consumers, young and old, and making sure that you're relevant. Being relevant with all the different categories is what this business is all about. People don't want everything to stay the same. They want to see products that they love, but they also want to see innovative products and that allow them to be more aspirational.
Regardless, even though they can afford it, they drink responsibly, going forward. Thank you so much, Mr. David Butler, Managing Director, enJOYcorp. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you very much.
All right, when we come back, we'll be looking at food security in Nigeria. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.